Hey everybody, it's Acadia Einstein from Strangeful Things, and since we don't have an episode this week, due to circumstances beyond our control, I thought that I would take the opportunity to introduce a new feature wherein I tell you what I think about other podcasts that sort of cover the same general topic area that we do here at Strangeful Things. It was not by accident that we ended up choosing this topic of kind of spoopy things for our podcast, and a big piece of it was other shows that I really, really liked and that I admire to this very day and listen to. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to try new shows and tell you what I think of those as well. I just didn't want to start out by listening to every podcast in the world just so that I could tell you which ones that I thought stunk. So, the first one I want to talk to you about is the one that really, if I wanted to say there was a spiritual parent of Strangeful Things, it would have to be the Thinking Sideways podcast. ThinkingSidewaysPodcast.com is where you'll find them, and that's where Joe, Steve, and Devin take a new unsolved mystery every week and fail to solve it completely. They are for like 185, I think. They've been doing it since 2013, and as far as I know, they've never missed a week. At least, I'm not going to go back and check the dates. They're super consistent. Their show sounds really good. Steve has been really, really helpful whenever I've reached out and contacted them. I actually interviewed them all for Superficial Gallery, our parent site, and you can just look up Thinking Sideways podcast interview in Google, and I'm sure you'll find it, because that is not a super, super lucrative search engine term yet, but I'm sure that it will be by the time they're finished. I think the only thing that can stop them is that they're going to run out of mysteries that actually are interesting. Because they will not do anything that's solved. And I guess, so you know where I put the spoopy podcasts on a scale, there's ones that are just true crime, because people love to hear about the horrible things that people do. There are the ones that are fictionalized but really, really interesting. They tell, scary stories or really interesting stories, or they actually go out of their way to create realistic audio plays, and by realistic I mean they have sound effects and stuff in them. And then there's the, the realm of podcasts that will basically do anything that kind of gives you the chills, or is a little bit off-putting, or just weird. And in this particular instance, I would say that Thinking Sideways is definitely a weirdo podcast, but it's weird in a specific genre of things that people have reported or things that have happened, and at the end of it, nobody knows why. A lot of it's going to be unsolved murders, because that is a big part of what mysteries are. You find somebody dead, they can't tell you what happened, and if nobody else can either, sometimes those things stick around, especially if there's people that feel like they do know why, or there are a bunch of theories, especially if they conflict. And what the three of them do is that they share weeks in that one of them will be the host for that particular week. They don't do what we do in that everybody kind of gets a turn. It's just one person sort of relating the facts of the case while the other ones chime in with either questions or comments, or in the instance of Joe, something that either blows up the other guy's spots because it's something they're going to talk about later, or he just says something that makes the whole rest of the show seem kind of dumb because he kind of sucked the fun out of it with one of his comments. He is a, how do I put this? Don't go to a magic show with Joe, because he'll ruin it. Doesn't make him less fun, doesn't make him less entertaining. It's just less fun to have a guy going, well, the girl is just scrunched up in the box there, while you're trying to suspend your disbelief. Steve, and he'll admit this himself, says everything like it's a question, even if it's a statement, and he tends to think that things that really aren't really particular and weird are really commonplace. Like he'll say, everybody always knew that one kid who only wore one shirt to school every single day and did crack. And that would be, everybody has that. One time, I guess the thing that made me love Steve the most was he said, sure, everybody has a needle and thread around handy just in case you need to do a quick stitch job. And that seems like the kind of thing that so few people do as to make it almost a statistical anomaly if anybody does it at all. But, to Steve, it's an everybody thing. And Devin is younger than the other two hosts, not sure by how much, but enough so that she can pretty much make fun of them. She says that's fair a lot, an awful lot. Don't play the thinking sideways drinking game if you have to drink when she says that's fair, because you will be hammered. She also brings a fun take, whereas Joe is sort of the realist that throws the water on things. Steve is the guy that will just keep the fire going, although there are times where he just says, nope, I'm not going to go down this road because... And generally Steve's, theories are pretty solid when he's not talking about quick stitch jobs. But Devin is the one that seems to be the most open-minded, I guess would be the right term. And she also has to explain to the old people in many instances how people do things nowadays. So I know that they must play up the age difference to a certain degree just because, it makes the show fun. And let me tell you, the show is fun. I've listened to every episode they've ever done, except for a couple topics that I really just wasn't interested in at all, and I can't remember off the top of my head what they were. And they are really, really well researched now. In the beginning, they just kind of did what we're doing, what everybody does when they start. No one's going to be listening to this, so let's ask each other questions that we don't know the answer to. And now, I don't know how they do it, because I think that they definitely still have day jobs, but they are really, really well researched, and in a lot of instances, they actually pull in expert help to explain some of the things that they can't explain on their own, like theories and math and airplane mechanics and stuff like that. That doesn't, mean to say that they don't just sometimes make crap up, because who doesn't, but they do everything they do in a fun way, and I love them to this day. I remember when I first found the podcast, I can't remember why, I can't remember what I was looking for. It certainly wasn't thinking sideways, because they don't think sideways, or at least if they think what they're doing is thinking sideways, they really should play it up a little bit more at the part where they do think sideways, because it really seems that they're pretty super linear, except when Joe says that it was the Chupacabra, which technically in every mystery there is a 50-50 chance that it was the Chupacabra. So good for you, Joe. Give them a try. I wish that they could go back and redo some of the topics that they did in the beginning, because they did some, really, really good, juicy topics. The ones that people try to, run up and grab right at the beginning in the show. And I think that now they would do them a lot better than they did back then. I don't fault them for having to begin somewhere, because everybody does. But I think if they would probably admit themselves that if they were going to give some of those older mysteries, the ones that are really, 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 I guess, in the top tier of things that people have probably heard of, they would be interested to hear the Thinking Sideways crew's take on it, and I think that the squad would probably want to have, their best foot forward on all of them. It's not to say the old episodes are bad, because if I were going to say that, then you wouldn't be listening to Strangeful Things, which I know you all are. But I will say that they've gotten a lot better, and the practice and the dedication that they put into the show really, really shows. Their production value is great, and they don't do any sound effects whatsoever. It's just 3 people talking, and that's pretty refreshing. I know that we have experimented with putting some things in our show. I don't know where we're actually going to end up on that, but if we were going to role model success, we could do a lot worse than what the Thinking Sideways squad puts out. So, Joe and Steve and Devin, I appreciate your show. I listen to it every week. You guys have always been super, super nice to me when I've reached out to you. And if you ever get really, really famous, I'm taking all the credit because I was the first person to ever interview you. So, keep up the good work, and remember, that's thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can subscribe to their feed there, or iTunes, Stitcher, all the ubiquitous podcast streaming applications. They also have a Patreon that I'm not, well, I guess I will. Hold on. They got a Facebook group and blah. They don't do a lot of stuff on their site themselves. They just kind of use that to host the feed, which I don't blame them for. That's what we're doing at Strangeful Things, except for now I'm doing this video, so I guess I'm screwing that all up. But they've got an active Facebook group. Devin loves Reddit, so there's a subreddit. I don't know how active it is. And they're pretty great, so give them a chance. And their Patreon is patreon.com/thinkingsideways. But if you donate to them before you donate to us, I will find out somehow, and you will be in a lot of trouble. So, that is the first ever Spoopy podcast review by me, Acadia Einstein. I offer this to you without any type of remuneration from the Thinking Sideways people. That probably would have been a great idea for me to work out ahead of time, and now I'm assuming that it's too late. So, whatever. You get this one for free, Thinking Sideways. And have a nice day.